I love when the betting markets get involved in politics because places like Vegas weren't built on, us winning. They were built on losers. Most people end up losing. Outside of Mark, he's always winning when it comes to, his bets and whatnot, even when it's WNBA games in mid-June and things like that. So the betting markets now are listing Ben Carson as number one to be Donald Trump's vice presidential pick. Back on May 23rd, Ben Carson was only given a 4% chance to be Trump's VP pick.
That's when I got him.
That's when you got him?
Just kidding.
I was going to say, look at Mark. Gosh, he's always ahead of the curve. He stays listening to this show. He knows where to place his political wagers. Those numbers are now up to, over the weekend, 25%. Ben Carson up 21 points in the last 3 weeks in terms of his chances to be the vice presidential choice of Donald Trump. Tim Scott is number two at 21%, but his odds have gone down the last 3 weeks. They were at 28. He was at the top of the list. His odds have come down from 28 to 21%. He's running second behind Ben Carson. Doug Burgum at number three. That's right. Doug Burgum, who ran for president for a hot minute. I think he got on one of the debate stages, North Dakota's governor. He's at number three at 17%. J.D. Vance at 14%. He's up 5 points in the last 3 weeks. And Marco Rubio's even at 10%. These are all over the last 3 weeks. Now, Doug Burgum's name keeps coming up. And who was I don't want to say who I was talking to, but I forget it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I was talking to somebody recently who is good friends with Doug Burgum. And they noted to me how this guy, first off, is very sharp. Trump will like him, and Trump does like him, apparently, in dealing with him. And he has an incredible amount of money, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, that if he was willing to dump into the campaign, would be very appealing to Donald Trump. Now, Trump is doing a good job fundraising, but still, money is the name of the game. And remember this, and I hadn't thought about this when it comes to why there's value in having somebody who is wildly wealthy sink their own money into their campaign. Normally there are limits to what you can donate, right? You have limits to what you can donate to a campaign as an individual. Now, you can give whatever you want to a PAC, but then when the PAC goes to buy advertising, they don't get the discounted rates that you get if you're buying advertising officially on behalf of the campaign. However, if you donate to your own campaign, you get to buy advertising at the cheaper rates as a self-funder on the campaign side. Somebody high up in the Kansas political world was explaining all this to me, and that's what makes a guy like Doug Burgum's money 3, 4, 5 times as valuable as any other donation you might get. You give to a PAC, the PAC has to pay top billing for advertising rates. You give to a campaign, different ballgame. Within certain windows, they can get advertising rates for less. So then if you're self-funding somebody like a Doug Burgum, and then you're also getting the cheaper rates, that money is worth a tremendous amount, which I thought was interesting. So he comes in number three. But here's what Trump has to be thinking about first and foremost. And what's interesting, too, is there's no women in that top 5 list, which I thought Trump might go woman. And Politico had a story over the weekend saying Kristi Noem says Trump could use a female running mate. I'm open to that. I certainly think there's value in that. But certainly we can find one that doesn't kill their pets. That's not a difficult thing to want to look for in any running mate. Can I just find one who's not killing their dogs? Okay? R.I.P. Cricket. Cricket's like the new Harambe, okay? Remember Harambe from, 7, 8 years ago?
Yeah, the Cincinnati Zoo.
Yeah,
right?
that poor gorilla. That's now Cricket. Cricket is what Harambe was 7, 8 years ago now.
Harambe forever.
Yeah, R.I.P. Harambe.
Cricket forever.
R.I.P. Cricket. So there's no females in the top 5. But what Trump needs to be thinking about is who makes him likable. Now, you might sit there, if you're a diehard Trump fan, and say, what do you mean? Why do you likable? this is basically a race like running for president back in 8th grade. That's what this is. A new poll from CBS showed that the main reason Biden voters are voting for Joe Biden is to oppose Donald Trump. That's it. It's not because they like Joe Biden. So right now, the polling that was done here recently, June 5th through 7th versus back in March, shows that 54% of likely Biden voters are voting for him to oppose Trump. Only 27% are voting for Joe Biden because they actually like Joe Biden. That tells you all you need to know. The majority of people that are going to vote for Biden simply are doing it to oppose Trump. Only a quarter of the people that are going to vote for Biden are doing it because they actually like the guy. That tells you a lot about the mindset of their own voter. So if you get somebody who can give you an extra 2, 3, 4, 5% in likability, that can swing this thing one way or the other. Now, who makes you more likable? I don't think there's an obvious list for that. And that's part of the problem. Do I think a female can help? Yes. Do I think a Sarah Huckabee Sanders makes some sense? I do. Kristi Noem, forget it. But who else is out there on that list? That's what is tough for the campaign to figure out at this point in time. Tim Scott probably makes sense, but a lot of people in the base don't care for Tim Scott. And frankly, using and saying, well, Tim Scott is a black man and black men are coming around maybe to Donald Trump. Tim Scott's a black guy, but I don't know. Ask black people and black men in particular about Tim Scott, and they might feel a little bit differently.